In the far reaches of the galaxy, beyond the bright stars that most maps displayed, there were quiet civilizations that lived in fear. These civilizations were not powerful empires or great conquerors. They were small communities, spread across clusters of planets that orbited calm suns. For centuries, they had lived in peace, trading among themselves, growing crops, mining resources, and sending travelers from one world to another. Life had been gentle, almost predictable, until something dark began to stir at the edges of their borders. It started with whispers. A merchant ship disappeared. A mining station stopped sending messages. Then, an entire colony fell silent. At first, leaders told themselves these were accidents, pirates, mechanical failures, or perhaps natural disasters. But when more and more outposts went missing, they could no longer deny the truth. Someone, or something, was attacking them. The Cone. Attackers were not like any ordinary raiders. They did not send warnings. They did not try to make deals or take prisoners. They came without sound, struck fast, and left only destruction behind. Ships were torn apart. Cities were abandoned. Survivors who managed to escape spoke of creatures or machines that destroyed everything in their path. No one knew what they wanted. Some believed they wanted resources. Others believed they wanted control. But what frightened everyone most was the possibility that they wanted nothing at all, that destruction itself was their purpose. The Alien Alliance, a group of small species who had always depended on cooperation, gathered for desperate meetings. Their leaders sat in vast chambers, their voices heavy with fear. They argued over what to do. Some said they should flee to safer parts of the galaxy. Others argued that running would only make them weaker. But none of them had a true solution. Their ships were small, their weapons outdated, and their armies few. Against this mysterious enemy, they felt like children holding sticks while a storm of fire approached. And so, at last, they decided to send a call for help. It was not a bold declaration, nor a carefully crafted request. It was simply a message, short, quiet, and almost hopeless. They did not even know who might hear it. The galaxy was vast, filled with stars and systems that no one had ever explored. Perhaps no one would notice the signal at all. But in their despair, they sent it anyway, like a prayer whispered into the dark. The message traveled far, carried by faint energy waves through the void. Days passed, then weeks. The Alliance leaders checked every communication line, waiting for an answer. None came. Morale dropped further. On the ground, citizens tried to live normal lives, but there was always fear in their eyes. Families built shelters underground. Traders stopped traveling between worlds. Every shadow in the sky looked like danger. The survivors who returned from raids told stories that made even the bravest hearts tremble. One pilot, her ship barely functioning, described how her crew had been chased for hours by ships that moved like hunters following prey. She said they were faster, sharper, and more merciless than anything she had seen before. Another spoke of being captured for a short time before escaping. His words were unclear, but he said he had looked into the eyes of one of the attackers, and in those eyes he saw nothing but emptiness. No pity, no mercy. Only the cold instinct to destroy. These stories spread across the Alliance worlds. People began to lose faith in their leaders. Some called for surrender, though no one even knew how to surrender to an enemy that did not speak. Others grew angry and blamed their neighbors for not doing enough. Trust began to weaken, and with it the spirit of unity that had always kept these civilizations alive. It was in this moment of weakness, when all hope seemed close to fading, that something strange happened. A signal returned. At first it was faint, like static in the air. The scientists who analyzed communication data almost ignored it. But then, the signal grew stronger. It was not from the raiders. It was not from any ally they knew. It was different. When the message was decoded, it was simple. No introduction, no long speech, just a short set of words. "We heard you." The Alliance leaders were stunned. Who had answered? The language was strange, rough, but understandable. It did not come with an identification code, no seal of a great empire, no clear explanation. It was as if the voice had come out of nowhere. At first, many believed it was a trick. Could the raiders be pretending to offer help? Could it be a trap to lure them into lowering their guard? Fear grew again, and arguments erupted in the council chambers. But the signal repeated itself once more, calm and steady. "We heard you. We are coming." Ships appeared at the very edge of Alliance territory. They were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Their designs were not smooth or elegant like most spacefaring civilizations preferred. These ships looked old, patched, and worn from countless battles. Their armor was scratched, their engines heavy, and yet they carried a presence that made even the bravest captains uneasy. When asked who they were, the newcomers gave only one answer: humans. The Alliance members had heard whispers of them before. Stories traveled through traders and explorers about a strange species from a faraway world. They were said to come from a planet that was harsh, dangerous, and violent in ways that most peaceful civilizations could not imagine. A planet where storms tore across continents, where beasts larger than ships hunted in the wild, where disease and hunger had shaped a people who learned to survive against all odds. To most, the stories sounded like exaggerations. Some even laughed at them. But now, as they saw the humans' ships emerge from the shadows, the laughter died. The humans did not smile, nor did they boast. They did not arrive with music or banners. They came quietly, almost like predators who had been watching all along. Their faces, when shown in transmissions, were stern and unreadable. Their eyes carried something the aliens could not name. It was not cruelty, but it was not gentleness, either. It was the look of a species that had walked through fire and come out alive, a species that had learned never to break. The Alliance was divided. Some were relieved. Help had come. Others were afraid. What if these humans were worse than the raiders? What if the galaxy's whispers were true, that Deathworlders did not save, they only conquered? But one truth could not be ignored. Someone had heard their plea. Someone had stepped out of the shadows. For the first time in months, the survivors of the Alliance felt something they had nearly forgotten. It was not safety and it was not certainty, but it was a spark, faint yet real. It was hope. The ships that appeared at the edge of Alliance space were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Most civilizations in the galaxy built ships to show their beauty and wealth. They liked shining metal, glowing lights, and smooth curves that looked elegant against the stars. But these new arrivals were different. Their ships were not beautiful at all. They were scarred and rugged, their surfaces patched with plates of mismatched metal. Some looked like they had been broken and rebuilt many times over. To the eyes of the Alliance leaders, these vessels seemed more like survivors than machines. At first, no one wanted to approach them. The Alliance Council held urgent meetings. Leaders of different species gathered in their great hall, their voices filled with uncertainty. "Who are they, really?" one alien asked, her long fingers tapping nervously on the table. "They say they are humans," another replied. "But what does that mean? No one here has ever met one before." "We cannot trust them," a third voice argued. "What if they are no different from the raiders?" Fear ran through every council member. The unknown always carried danger. And humans were not just unknown. They carried stories, rumors, and warnings. Some traders had spoken of them long ago, describing them as strange beings from a planet no one wanted to visit. Their world, Earth, was said to be a death world, a place filled with storms, poisonous plants, dangerous animals, and endless challenges. How could any intelligent species grow there? And yet somehow these humans had risen, had built ships, and now stood at their doorstep. Finally, the council agreed to open communication. A transmission was sent, and the humans responded. Their faces appeared on the screen. They looked ordinary at first. 2 eyes, 1 mouth, 2 arms and legs. Nothing frightening about their form. But there was something in their expressions that unsettled everyone. Their eyes seemed sharper, their posture straighter, their silence heavier. These were not beings used to comfort or peace. They carried themselves like creatures who expected danger at every moment. The council asked them questions. The humans gave short answers. "Why are you here?" "We heard your call." "What do you want in return?" "Nothing." "Who sent you?" We chose to come. Their voices were calm but strong. They did not speak of politics, trade, or reward. They only repeated that they had heard the call for help and had come to answer it. This left the alliance divided once again. Some leaders believed the humans were sincere. After all, they had arrived quietly and asked for nothing. Others, however, were suspicious. "No one crosses the stars without reason," one elder whispered. "Every species wants something. If not wealth, then power. If not power, then land. These humans are hiding their true purpose." But while the leaders argued, ordinary citizens of the Alliance looked at the humans with a mixture of fear and curiosity. For so long they had felt helpless against the raiders. Their soldiers had been beaten, their defenses broken. And yet, here was a new species standing tall, not with fear but with confidence. People whispered among themselves, "Could these humans truly protect us?" The humans did not wait for endless debates. They began to move their ships closer to the Alliance, worlds. They asked to study the ruined colonies to see the scars left by the raiders. When allowed, they landed quietly, their boots touching alien soil for the first time. To the aliens, it was strange to see them up close. Humans were not as tall or as strong-looking as many other species. They did not have claws, scales, or thick armor-like skin. In fact, they looked fragile in comparison. But when they moved, they carried themselves with purpose. Their eyes studied every corner, their hands touched machines with skill, and their voices were filled with certainty. They behaved like people, who had walked through danger so many times that it no longer slowed them down. The Alliance engineers showed them broken defense towers and destroyed ships. Where alien engineers saw hopeless ruins, the humans saw possibilities. They picked up damaged parts, examined them, and spoke about how to rebuild stronger. They did not waste time with fear. They thought only of solutions. This confused the aliens. How could a species from such a dangerous planet carry so much confidence? Some began to believe the rumors, that their world had forced them to become survivors unlike any other. On Earth, storms, predators, and disasters had tested them for thousands of years. If that was true, then perhaps these humans were exactly the kind of allies the Alliance needed. Still, unease remained. The humans had not shared their full story. They did not speak about their past wars, their governments, or their numbers. They gave only what was needed in the moment, nothing more. It was as though they wanted to remain half hidden in the shadows. One council member put it best. "These humans are like a blade. They may cut down our enemies, but if we are not careful, they may cut us as well." Tension grew as the raiders struck again. Scouts reported enemy ships moving toward another colony. The council debated what to do. Some said they should retreat, as they always had. But before the decision could be finalized, the humans spoke. "Let us face them," their commander said simply. The room went silent. No one had expected such boldness. The raiders had crushed every attempt before. To send these newcomers into battle felt reckless. Yet the humans showed no hesitation. Their eyes held the same steady look, as if danger was not an obstacle, but a familiar companion. The council argued for hours. Some begged to trust the humans, saying there was no other hope. Others feared they would turn against the Alliance, once they had shown their strength. But in the end, desperation made the choice for them. They allowed the humans to prepare for the coming fight. In the days that followed, Alliance citizens watched from afar as the humans readied their ships. They moved with speed and discipline. Their weapons looked simple, almost crude compared to advanced alien technology. But the way they carried themselves gave everyone the sense that these weapons had been tested in countless battles before. The aliens whispered to each other. Who were these humans really? Were they saviors, or were they something far more dangerous? No one had an answer. But one truth was clear. The shadows that had hidden the humans were gone. They had stepped into the light of the galaxy, and whether the Alliance was ready or not, the Deathworlders were here. And soon everyone would see what it meant when they chose to fight. The raiders came like they always did, without warning, without mercy. Their ships appeared from the dark of space, sharp and fast, like wolves closing in on helpless prey. The chosen target was a colony on the edge of Alliance territory. It was a farming world, not a fortress. Its defenses were weak, its soldiers few, its people unprepared. In the past, this colony would have fallen within hours. The raiders would have burned the fields, stolen supplies, and left the survivors with nothing but fear. But this time was different. This time, the humans were waiting. The colony's people looked up at the sky as alarms rang. Instead of running for their underground shelters, they saw strange ships rising into orbit. These ships were not smooth or shining like the raiders. They were rugged, heavy, their surfaces scarred with the marks of old battles. To the colonists, they looked like wounded beasts, yet beasts that refused to die. The humans moved quickly. Their voices crackled through communication channels, steady and confident. "Stay calm. Stay hidden. We will handle this." The raiders did not know who they were facing. They expected the usual: weak resistance, frightened soldiers, an easy victory. As their ships closed in, they fired their first shots, beams of light tearing through the sky. But the humans did not retreat. They did not scatter. They met the attack head-on. From the colony's surface, people saw it unfold like a story from legend. The human ships surged forward with surprising speed. They did not spread out carefully the way Alliance fleets often did. Instead, they moved, together, close, almost recklessly. Their formation was not elegant, but it was fierce, like a pack of predators striking as one. The first clash was brutal. Human weapons roared to life, firing with precision. Their guns did not look advanced, but they struck with deadly accuracy. Raider ships burst into fire, their wreckage spinning into the void. The survivors among the colonists gasped. For so long, they had seen only failure against these attackers. Now, for the first time, they saw the enemy ships destroyed. But the battle was not easy. The raiders outnumbered the humans. For every enemy ship destroyed, another pressed forward. The sky lit up with fire, a storm of weapons. The colonists hid in their shelters, but many still watched from small windows, unable to turn away. They saw human ships take hits, their hulls cracking, their engines flaring with smoke. And yet, none of them broke. That was what shocked the aliens most. In past battles, the Alliance fleets had always tried to survive. They had fought cautiously, retreating whenever danger grew too great. But the humans fought differently. They pressed forward even when outnumbered, even when damaged. They did not fear losing, they only cared about winning. Inside one human ship, the crew worked in perfect unison. Commands were shouted, responses came instantly. Sparks flew as panels broke, but no one panicked. Every person moved with the certainty of those who had faced worse before. Their captain's voice cut through the chaos. "Push through! Don't give them time to recover!" The raiders soon realized they were not fighting weaklings. These opponents were relentless. Every time they tried to regroup, the humans struck harder. Every time they tried to retreat, the humans chased them down. It was a style of fighting the raiders had never faced before. It was not careful, not cautious. It was raw, fearless, and unstoppable. On the ground, the colonists began to cheer. For the first time in years, they felt hope. They saw the raiders' ships falling one after another, consumed by fire. They saw the humans holding the line, refusing to let the enemy near the planet. The sky was filled with light, a battlefield that looked like both destruction and salvation. Still, the price was high. Human ships took heavy damage. Some were torn apart, their crews lost in the fire. But even in death, they bought time for the others. Every sacrifice seemed to strengthen the survivors. They fought harder, as if the loss of a comrade fueled their determination rather than their fear. The raiders, so used to easy victories, began to falter. Their ships wavered, their attacks grew desperate, and then came the final strike. The humans, battered but unbroken, gathered for one last push. They surged forward with everything they had left. Explosions filled the sky as they cut deep into the raider formation, breaking it apart piece by piece. At last the raiders fled, Their ships turned and vanished into the darkness of space, leaving behind wreckage and silence. For a long moment, no one spoke. The colonists stared at the sky, their hearts pounding. The humans had done what no one else could. They had stopped the raiders. When the news spread across the Alliance, disbelief turned into celebration. Worlds that had lived in fear for years now saw a spark of hope. They sent messages of thanks, their words filled with relief and wonder. Children in schools spoke of the humans as heroes. Families told each other that perhaps the future was not as dark as they once believed. But alongside hope, there was also fear. The aliens had seen the way the humans fought. It was not just bravery, it was something deeper, something fiercer. They fought like people who had nothing to lose, like survivors of a world that had tested them again and again. Some leaders whispered in private, "If they can defeat the raiders so easily, what else are they capable of?" The council gathered once more. Around the great table, voices rose in argument. Some said the humans must be trusted and welcomed as allies. Others said they were too dangerous, too unpredictable. No one could deny that their strength was extraordinary, but extraordinary strength always carried risk. Meanwhile, the humans themselves said little. They did not celebrate their victory with grand speeches. They did not demand rewards. They simply repaired their ships, tended to their wounded, and prepared for the next battle. When the council asked them why they fought so fiercely, their leader gave only a simple answer: because someone needed us to. The words spread through the Alliance, simple yet powerful. They carried a meaning that touched many hearts. The humans had not come for conquest or wealth. They had come because they heard a cry for help and they could not ignore it. Still, the memory of the battle stayed sharp in every mind. The image of human ships pressing forward through fire, refusing to retreat, would never be forgotten. To some, it was the image of salvation. To others, it was the image of danger. But either way, one truth had been made clear. The Deathworlders were no myth. They were real, and when they chose to fight, nothing could stand in their way. After the first battle, the Alliance began to see the humans in a new light. They were no longer just strangers. They were survivors who had shown that even the most hopeless fight could be won. But admiration was mixed with fear. The humans were powerful, and power always carries uncertainty. Could they be trusted completely, or were they a force that could one day turn on the very people they helped? The Alliance Council struggled with these questions. Meetings were long, voices raised, and tempers flared. Some members argued that the humans were exactly what they needed. "We have seen their courage," one leader said, pointing to reports from the battlefield. "They will fight for us when no one else will." Another countered, "And what if they fight for themselves? What if we give them too much power and they decide to take our worlds for themselves?" The humans said very little. They did not argue, nor did they try to persuade anyone. They acted quietly, efficiently, and always with purpose. In the Alliance colonies, they began repairing defenses, teaching soldiers new tactics and organizing supplies. Their methods were unusual, sometimes harsh, but always effective. The alien soldiers were surprised. The humans did not wait for perfect plans or endless debate. They trained the soldiers relentlessly, focusing on survival, discipline, and quick thinking. Where aliens often relied on technology or large fleets, the humans emphasized adaptability. They taught soldiers how to use what they had to move quickly and to think ahead. Some Alliance citizens struggled to understand the humans. They seemed fearless, almost to a point of recklessness. While most aliens planned carefully and hesitated in danger, the humans acted decisively. They took risks others would never consider. And when faced with impossible situations, they never panicked. Instead, they found solutions that seemed miraculous to those watching. Even children noticed the difference. On quiet worlds, young aliens would peek at the humans training soldiers. They whispered to each other about the strange ways the humans moved, their sharp eyes, and the way they seemed to always know what to do next. Stories began to spread among families, tales of the humans who could fight storms, escape traps, and never give up. Yet for all their admiration, many still felt uneasy. The humans were from a death world, a place no Alliance member had ever visited. They had survived a planet of storms, dangerous animals, and harsh conditions that would have destroyed ordinary beings. That meant they had instincts, strength, and courage unlike anything the aliens had known. And while those traits were now a blessing, they were also a reminder. The humans were wild, unpredictable, and not entirely understood. The aliens began to notice subtle differences in behavior. Humans ate different foods, slept less, and seemed to gain energy from action and movement. They laughed rarely, but when they did, it was sharp and full of life. They argued only when necessary and always focused on results. The aliens were fascinated and cautious. It was as though the humans existed on a level above fear, something they had never experienced. Trust slowly formed, but it was fragile. Some council members arranged joint patrols, where humans and alien soldiers worked together to secure planets and scout for raider activity. At first, coordination was difficult. Aliens were used to careful, measured strategies, while humans moved quickly, often improvising. Mistakes were made, but each mistake became a lesson. Slowly, both sides adapted. Aliens learned courage under pressure, while humans learned to respect planning and coordination. During these months, the humans proved themselves repeatedly. They stopped raider attacks, repaired colonies, and saved countless lives. Every time they acted, they reinforced their reputation, but the Alliance could not forget the humans' origins. Deathworlders were known as survivors, yes, but survivors could also be ruthless. They had a reputation across the galaxy for doing what needed to be done, no matter the cost. Some leaders worried, what if the humans' methods were too harsh for peaceful alien societies? Despite these worries, the bond grew stronger. Humans and aliens began to share stories, not of war, but of survival. Humans spoke of storms on their homeworld, animals that hunted without mercy, and challenges that taught them to fight, think, and endure. Aliens shared their own stories of colonies, trade, and quiet lives that humans might never understand. Slowly, mutual respect formed. The Alliance began to realize that trust, even with fear, could be the key to survival. Still, unease lingered in every council meeting. The humans were a constant reminder of something the aliens had never faced before, a species that could adapt, endure, and fight beyond imagination. The council knew that one day, a challenge far greater than the raiders would test them, and the humans would be the ones leading the charge. And yet, despite the unease, the Alliance could not imagine surviving without them. Months passed, and the Alliance's world slowly rebuilt under the guidance of the humans. But the threat was never far away. Reports came of vast raider fleets gathering in the far reaches of the galaxy. Their numbers were greater than ever, and their intent clear: total destruction. The Alliance prepared for the worst. Soldiers trained, defenses were strengthened, and colonies were fortified. Yet despite their preparations, fear was widespread. The raiders had learned, adapted, and now the Alliance faced their greatest challenge yet. But the humans were ready. They did not hesitate, and they did not panic. Their eyes were steady, their movements precise, their minds focused. They surveyed the enemy fleets, analyzed weaknesses, and planned attacks. Unlike the aliens, they did not wait for orders or consensus. They acted decisively, quickly, and with a courage born of survival. When the raider fleets arrived, the battle began. The sky was filled with flashes of light, the sound of weapons roaring across space, and the chaos of war. Humans led the charge, their ships weaving through enemy lines with incredible speed. Alien ships followed, inspired by the humans' bravery and guided by their strategies. The humans fought differently than the aliens expected. They did not aim for elegance or glory. They aimed to end the battle quickly, striking with precision and force. Every move was calculated yet flexible. Every plan allowed for improvisation. Their survival instincts, honed on their harsh world, made them unpredictable and unstoppable. The raiders, confident in their numbers, were surprised. For every strike they delivered, humans countered with tactics that seemed impossible. They predicted movements, avoided traps, and pressed attacks with relentless determination. Slowly, the balance shifted. The raiders began to falter, their formation breaking under pressure. From the Alliance's perspective, the humans were almost mythical. They appeared from the shadows, striking where no one expected. They seemed untouchable, unbreakable, a force that the raiders could not comprehend. Planets that would have fallen were defended, fleets that would have been destroyed were saved. The humans were not just fighters, they were saviors. Yet even in victory, the humans were calm. They did not celebrate. They did not boast. They repaired their ships, treated the wounded, and prepared for the next challenge. When asked why they fought so fiercely, their answer was simple: because someone needed us. The words spread across the galaxy. They were not just a statement, they were a lesson. The humans had come not for power, not for glory, but because they heard a cry for help. They had stepped from the shadows into the light, and in doing so, they had changed the fate of the Alliance forever. When the battle ended, the raiders were defeated. Many fled and some surrendered. The Alliance worlds began to rebuild, stronger than before. Yet even in peace, the humans remained vigilant. They did not relax, for they knew that the galaxy would always hold threats. But they also knew something else. When the call for help came, they would be there. The aliens looked at them with awe and respect. They had seen strength, courage, and determination beyond anything they had imagined. But they also felt a sense of caution, for they knew the humans were shaped by a world unlike any other. Wild, fierce, and unyielding, the humans had chosen to fight for others, and the galaxy would never be the same again. From that day forward, the Alliance knew a new truth. In the darkest moments, hope might come from the shadows, and when it did, humanity would be there to answer.